You know, I want to start with everyone here and just ask, where were you in the world when this project first came to you, and why was it a yes? Xosha, let's start with you down there.
Where in the world was I? I was home, in a post-strike headspace of like, I want to be on a series. Yeah. I need the series of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was an audition. I did a tape. You had a callback, did a chemistry read, just the regular old school way.
Yeah, yeah. Why was that a yes for you? What made you say, I got to do this project?
You know, I feel like I usually weigh it between three things: the team, the money, and the material. Usually things have 2 out of 3, or I try to go for 2 out of 3, and this had all 3. Yeah. Legendary team, legendary money, and awesome, amazing, relatable, fresh material.
I love that. Lovie, how about yourself?
I was also at home. I was in Georgia. I was just, you know, living my life. And I got an audition just like many other auditions. And then I was like, okay, this is based off of a book. Let me read the book because I love a good book. So I read the book in one sitting and I was like, ooh, I got to be a part of this. Like, I gotta really do good on this audition because the book really became like a very close to my heart.
Yeah. Michael, how about yourself?
I was in the airport when it came across my desk.
Is a desk at the airport.
His virtual desk.
TSA.
Homeland Security.
No, but I went home for Christmas and I was reading a book and I remember asking my mom, I was like, yo, Mom, what books did you read as a kid? And she was like, Judy Blume. Yeah. And I was like, what? Okay. I wasn't too familiar with Judy Blume. The script came across and it was Judy Blume 2 months later. I saw that Mara was attached to it. I saw Regina King was attached to it. And I was like, all right. I mean, I'm new to the game. So, like, why wouldn't I take the opportunity? Yeah. And look at God, I'm here now.
Absolutely. So. I love that.
Yeah. I can't really remember. I can't remember where I was and what I was doing. I think, I don't remember, you know. I've known Mara for a long time and Regina and everybody involved. And so it's a yes. You know, I was forced into a yes. It wouldn't have been possible to say no. But I can't answer. I'm not quite sure what I was doing. But yeah.
I'm like Wood. I knew the team. I knew Mara. We've been friends for a while. We were hanging out in Vegas. We had just seen Usher.
I love where this story's about to go.
I'm not gonna do the whole thing. I'm not gonna tell you what happened. I'm gonna tell you what happened in Vegas, but because anyway, she started talking to me about this character that she had and the story that she had written and what I'd be interested in. I was like, let's keep talking about it, and it kind of flowed. As Wood said, it kind of flowed through this idea of who were the players, who's on the team. But the character was a character that I had not yet had the opportunity to explore in my body of work. So I felt so lucky for it because, you know, you do one thing in the industry and then they want you to keep doing that thing over and over and over again. You're like, I want to do something different. And that was what this was. So that's how I came into the project.
Love that. Lovie, I want to go back down to you and let's talk about Keisha. You know, how did you start to build her? Like, what did you relate with, you know, with regards to her, and who did you draw from to really bring her to life?
When I first got the role for Keisha, I was reading the scenes. I think the scenes that I was reading was the first introduction in the party scene. And then I think it was also, let's just focus on that one right now because that one we're going to go with that one. So I was like, okay, so if she has something that happened to her and she's kind of got her guard up, like, oh, I'm going to give like attitude. I'm going to be like snappy and everything. And then I was talking to Mara and Regina and they were like, no. It's not that kind of trauma. It's more so like a very vulnerable, like she's insecure. And so like they taught me how to be softer with Keisha and to give her a little more grace. And I'm happy that they did do that because it was easier to just have a lot more compassion and empathy for the character before going into her.
Yeah. What about you, Michael? You know, this was, like you said, you're a newbie in the game. What was it that first day like for you on set, and how did you draw Justin? Like, what did you pull from for him?
First day on set, I was petrified. I mean, I remember walking in, and I was even at the table read, because it was my first time at a table read, and I was sitting at the head of the table, and I looked to Karen and looked to Wood, and I was like, hey, I've only been doing this for 3 years. I am not classically trained, and I felt like an imposter. But I remember them giving me some kind words and saying, like, you know, you wouldn't have gotten the part if it weren't meant to be, and you already know him. And I just remember, you know, kind of keeping that in the back of my mind, like, I know this guy. Justin's completely different than me. So for me, I had to, I mean, I did some research. I went to some private schools, understanding, you know, who this guy, because he's an interesting dude. Like, he's an interesting dude. And I was kind of nervous to play him. I was like, my guys are going to make fun of me because he's such an emotional, such a vulnerable dude that I've never seen on television.
Yeah.
But so I there was a specific line that Mara wrote. She said that he had one foot in confidence and the other foot in insecurity. And there was something palpable about it, and that I really connected with, because I was like, I know that's how we all feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We feel good one day, and then the other day we feel like crap. But, like, it's life.
Yeah.
And there was something so honest about him that I enjoyed.
What about building chemistry between the two of you guys? Like, what was that like? Because it just felt, it almost felt like I was eavesdropping. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know we're all familiar with reality TV, but it really felt like I was witnessing something that maybe I naturally wouldn't be witnessing because it felt so organic and beautiful. But talk to me about that.
I do think it was kind of like you guys were watching not the real life version, but kind of like the plot points and how we really met. Like, for Justin and Keisha, they knew each other when they were like in elementary school, and then there was a gap in between, and then they reconnected, and then they had this wild ride of all of these unexpected like things for them that they just didn't know what was about to happen. And so for us, we had 2 chemistry reads for forever, and on the first chemistry read, I did not read with Michael, but on the first chemistry read, we were on the plane together, sitting next to each other, and we didn't know each other.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, like, so we were sitting next to each other, and I just
Headphones in.
Yeah, I kept thinking, like, who's this guy with the window seat? I really wanted the window seat so bad. And I was like, we're going all the way to LA. All right, fine, is whatever. So, like, yeah, so, like, I'm turned this way. He's looking out the window. And then, so that was like, okay, like, I saw him. And then he's going to the same hotel as me. Okay, that's kind of weird too. And so we kind of like knew each other a little bit. Yeah. And then he did come up to me during the chemistry reads when we were about to read together, right? Yeah, and that was nice. So it was like we kind of knew each other. So when we actually read together, it was like actually playing the scene out as people who kind of knew each other. And we're coming into it. So there was a lot of parallels with like our relationship in the show and then in real life.
Can I just say something about that
Please,
real quick?
yes.
It just came to my mind. Like, that's incredible. First of all, I'm mad at y'all. Y'all didn't tell us this until yesterday. Yesterday we found this out. But you know what's interesting in just hearing it this time? Like, that's what was in front of them. You guys had met, and so there was energy, like undescribable energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Built-in chemistry already. So that's crazy. You know, that's like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Karen were like, what? She said shit. I said shit.
Yeah.
That's and you guys never even discussed, hey, I'm going to LA for this project.
No,
probably.
we didn't. But it's also like because I knew him from the plane and because I found out that he was going to be, you know, one of the Justins. And I was like, okay, we should read together. Like, we read in each other's hotel rooms, like over like Wendy's and stuff.
4 for 4.
Yeah, so it's like I really did want him to win. Like,
So
I wanted
y'all
him
stole
to get
these
this.
roles.
Basically.
I wanted,
Basically,
Roll.
they rehearsed with each other
Prior to the
and
cold
said, we gonna
reading.
get this job.
Prior to the cold reading.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I wanted him to get it, and I wanted him to be there with me, just like you know how Keisha wants the best for Justin, and Justin wants the best for Keisha. So it's a lot of parallels.
Okay. Okay then.
That's how the plot thickens.
Right.
Welcome, actors. This is
Listen, so that chemistry is real then. I love it. You know, Eric is such a different character from what we've seen you do before. He's not Avon Barksdale. Talk to me a little bit about, about Eric and about, how you put him together, because he really has this calming spirit, I think.
I mean, really, honestly,
Yeah.
it's just more like me as a dad, except for the circumstances aren't like me. And I'm not like Eric in any other way, but I'm a dad. So, and that's really what I'm on there doing. So I don't really, try to be anything outside of like that voice, that voice for my son and my wife, and that type of energy. And I don't really have to wing it. You know what I'm saying? I'm raised by a man. Me and my brother was raised by my dad, and so I kind of know the father thing the most.
Yeah.
Because I'm raised by my dad, and I got 2 kids. And
Yeah.
I was the first. I'm the youngest. I was the first to have kids. You know what I'm saying? So I was started young and all that kind of shit. So
I love that. I love that. So, I want to go back down to you and talk a little bit about, Shelly, because she obviously is a very hard worker. And we also have this understanding, especially in episode 1, how close she and Keisha are. What was it about, reading that script that helped you really kind of, bring life to her in the way that we get to see her, not only in this first episode, but over the course of the entire season?
I mean, everything's so well written.
Yeah.
I feel like on Forever, so I didn't have to search too hard for answers. I related to Shelly on a personal level and just on a familial level. I have I have a bunch of girl cousins who are all raised by single moms at all different, financial levels. I was raised by a single mom. I am a single mom. Yeah. So I just connected to her. I just understood, even though our circumstances are different, I know what it means to do it alone. I know what it means to have that closeness with your daughter. I have that with my mom. I hope that me and my daughter will continue to have that. Yeah. I was just really excited to just get to step into that mom bag and flex the little skills I've learned over the last 7 years with my daughter. I was like, can I, sell this as having a teenager? Like, will it work? And I think it works. Like, I'm like,
it works.
I bought it when I watched it. I was like, okay.
Yeah. No, it pops for sure. And, and Karen, you mentioned in the intro that you hadn't been able to explore this type of character before. So where did you start with her? Tell me a little bit about her, because even though we've obviously seen successful Black women in series, I still felt like I hadn't seen this version before. Like I found myself watching and saying, ooh, that's how I'm going to be when I'm a mom. I'm going to be asking these same questions.
I think Dawn is spark of Mara's imagination. A collaboration by the both of us. I certainly know Regina had a lot to do with the attitude, the tone of how that character came to be in the series, what her role would be, not just as a nurturer, someone who cares, but a woman who has her own life. You have a sense that Dawn has her own ambition that she has achieved in her own life, but that her way of loving her son is in some ways to antagonize him, and that her role in a lot of ways in the story is to serve as a tool to push him forward. And, as a mother, I started out very much in that superhero role with my kids. They loved me, and we then transitioned once they got to teenage years into me being the villain in their origin story. And I think that's kind of where we find Dawn. She is, Justin's arch nemesis in many ways, but also the one he seeks to please and who he loves. And he finds his attention and his love being turned in a different direction towards something else and something new, and how that makes Dawn feel. So as far as inspiration is concerned, it really was just knowing women who are like Dawn, and also choosing to represent what we know now as a Black wealthy class in this country. We haven't seen a lot of that on television. And I was interested in what the audience's reaction was going to be to seeing an African-American family who does not want for things. They're not the Jeffersons or, well, rather the Jeffersons have money.
Right,
They're
right.
not Good Times. This isn't Good Times.
Still not the Jeffersons.
Still not the Jeffersons. No, you're not George Jefferson. So,
But you know what? Let's stay there though, and have the three of you kind of talk about how you describe the Edwards family, because, again, yes, we've seen representations of a Black family doing well on camera before, but this felt a little bit more intimate, I think, from probably what we've seen before. At least, maybe it's because I was relating to it in a way that maybe I haven't related before. But how would you guys describe the Edwards family? Yeah.
I would say we're not thirsty.
I like that.
I
Not
agree.
thirsty.
It's hard to describe. Like that's a difficult question because
Yeah.
of so many answers. You know, like
Yeah.
it's difficult to describe any family in some succinct way. But I think Karen really nailed it. Like in terms of seeing affluent Black people that aren't really exploiting that per se necessarily.
Yeah.
I just like that when I'm doing some role. I don't care the role. I want people to feel relatable to me. You know, and a lot of the times, I mean, the 1% is the 1% in terms of financially.
Yeah.
They're not all that relatable.
Right.
So when I'm Eric, I'm always just I want us to be relatable.
Yeah.
Wood wants Eric to be relatable to the viewers.
Right.
And Karen and because relatability makes people builds interest. You know, if I'm too something that's unrelatable, then something else has to build interest. It ain't like people aren't going to check it out. You know, like I did Jimi Hendrix. He's very unrelatable.
Right.
But you're still attracted to it because of the level of that, right?
Right.
But we're just people in California, a family, and we're dealing with our circumstances. But really, it's not about our wealth per se or the money we have.
Right.
It's just about the relatability of the first love. You know, that love. What's going to happen with this relationships that they have?
Yeah.
And then there's hiding things, and there's exposure of things, and there's a lot of that. So I didn't answer the question because it's just
But
I
you
could
did,
answer it
though.
100
But you
ways.
did,
I said
yeah.
50 things, you know.
And you absolutely answered it.
You did do it. I mean, I think the only thing I would say with it was, you know, we're not a family who's grasping. We're not thirsty. Like, we're not trying to find more things to put in the house. And you don't have you have a sense that they are stable.
Yeah.
But like what was saying, not just stable financially, but stable internally. Like our focus, what makes it relatable, I think, is our focus on our son and his growth and development. I think that's also what makes the show so incredibly universal.
Yeah.
I think so many different generations of people are going to see in the story, not just that this is a family that has wealth, which I really don't think we've seen a realistic portrayal of a Black wealthy class on television. Not realistically. I mean, I think it's been, you know, the melodramatic version of it, but not necessarily one that just looks like these are people you know every day.
Yeah. Or the fantasy version of
Right,
it.
the fantasy
right.
version.
Yep.
The
Exactly.
Real Housewives version.
I agree.
Like, just to add to that, because it's sort of different to come from money and to make money. So we made money, you know, and now we have money, and maybe there's been some time, so we're systemic to the money we have. But that means our offspring is experiencing this life that has money already. So it's
Yeah.
different for the kids of people who make money than it is the people who make money, because I could remember putting in the work poor.
Right. Right.
You understand? Or, you know, without money,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
And so then the work really balances out. If your ego ain't in the way, then you feel like, well, I did the work, and so I've just made some money off of what I've done, or I made something off. There's a built-up value that is being trying to have cost and value be the same in show business is difficult. So as an actor, as you make more money, if you have a high value as a talent, you just deserve it. And I feel like my character, Eric, he is deserving of the things they have, but I don't feel like they come from money. And that's a big difference, you know.
Yeah.
And then without ego, I don't want him to have some ego like I made money. A lot of times Black people do get money, and they be like, well, I got money.
Right.
Let me further separate myself
Yeah.
because I got money.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, that's whack. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like,
That's not the Edwards either.
and that's not
I
us.
was gonna say they don't even come across like that.
I'm not
in
saying
the
that it
Creation
is. I'm not
series.
saying that.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like all
Yeah.
over the place a little bit, but I'm not saying that's us.
Yeah.
I think that we're the opposite of that. I'm just describing something maybe the opposite of us.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that for a character like Eric, and I even believe, just both of our characters, I don't think we come from necessarily, a whole lot of money. Probably just come from the standard middle class sort of upbringing where you live check to check every 2 weeks, or every 2 Fridays a check comes in type shit. And it's gone Tuesday.
Right.
And the food lasted for 3 days somehow.
Right.
Or 4 days. But I feel like groceries don't last 1 day nowadays. So we built this family up, but it's built up over time, So you guys are just seeing this affluent family, just like when you see the Cosbys. You didn't see him go to school and her go to school to be lawyers and doctors, and so it's kind of like that's what we have going on here. So
Yeah. And let's talk about Shelley and Keisha, and the family dynamic that they've built together and that you guys have built together. How would you describe them as a family? And also would love to hear how you guys built this incredible chemistry as mother and daughter in this series.
Well, I was going to speak to your first part, just thinking of the single momness of it all and how much you rely on your extended family and community. And I feel like that's pretty present on our side of things. We have the cousins, we got George, and a host of other, made up people probably we put in our backstory. But like our family is not the typical nuclear, our nuclear family is just us two, but like our greater community, I feel like plays a huge role in our family life.
It does. And I also think me and Xosha just love each other so much. So it's just so easy to just like portray like a loving mother-daughter, like I want to make you proud. Because, Black moms have this saying where they'll be like, I'm not one of your little friends.
One of your little friends.
And then their daughters will become, 24, 5, and then they become their little friends. And so it's just like watching that happen for Keisha and Shelley, like watching her become one of her little friends after like the daughter comes out.
cool. I like that.
What was it like, kind of building that dynamic that we get to see over the course? Because it's amazing. It's as amazing as the chemistry you and Michael have. What was that like for you guys?
I feel like we just like hung out.
Yeah.
We talked. We read scenes. We're nervous together.
Yeah, Mara's writing really did help it kind of be easy to kind of fall into the illusion of like this loving mother and daughter, but also strict relationship, because it's not like Shelley was just like, do whatever you want. It was really like, it was nice to be able to be in a space where the sets, like the set design and the costumes really showed you what the relationship was. So it was very easy to fall into it.
Yeah.
And Keisha's a good kid.
Yeah.
Like, as far as Shelley knows, or is concerned, like she's a good kid. Like, why the heck would she not be close to her? She's killing it.
One thing that I said in the intro is that this really is like a love letter to Los Angeles. And I think specifically it's a love letter to Black Los Angeles. You guys shot in my neighborhood in View Park. And I know that Regina King is originally from View Park, and it felt like there was so much care and consideration, brought to what ultimately came to life, especially in that first episode. What was it like working with Regina, the King, for this series?
I mean, Regina's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very rare that you meet someone who knows themselves as much as she does. Like, she allows you to be vulnerable. She's very communicative. She knows what she wants, and she's very specific in her vision. And because she's an actress, she knows how to speak to actors, which I feel like you don't always get, and especially it being one of my first big projects, and to have someone, like, I don't know if you remember this. Well, you do remember. We did a couple exercises, but I remember she had us dive into Justin and Keisha's backstory as 6-year-olds in kindergarten, and she had me and Lovie crawling on the ground, and But I mean, it was this weird icebreaker that allowed us to kind of open up to each other in a way.
Yeah.
And it allowed us to connect. So, I mean, Regina, she gets it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She gets it.
So the audience has only seen one episode of this series. But I don't want to give too much away, but I do want to say one thing that you and I were talking about is what makes me so excited about this is I think a lot of times when you see stories rooted in Black family, it really centers around trauma. And that's not what we get with this series. It's centered around love. What can we kind of tease is coming in the remaining episodes of this season for the audience? Because for me, that was just such a treat as a viewer to consume.
I would say kind of the ups and downs of love, I guess. Mm-hmm. The ups and downs that come with trying to figure things out with love. So between Mike and Lovie, they lead the story. And they give us the ups and downs of the situations they're in. And then Mike brings it home. And then Karen gets on them and stuff or whatever she has to deal with. And I try to help out.
Look, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I try to help him out, and then I try to front like I'm not. But, I mean, I think that's really what it is. It just, it's not predictable because it just like love isn't necessarily all that predictable, especially young love. You know, it's less predictable because it's less understood, less experienced. So I think that's what you kind of get, the ups and downs of them figuring out each other. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, there are hidden things that are exposed, and then that becomes in topic.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that's my opinion.
I think so much of this show, so much of love exists on these places where we in transition spaces, what my son calls liminal spaces, going from one point to another point. They exist on this bridge, the real story of how you love someone and how you guys get through, how you witness them is also an aspect of the love experience. And I think what you have to look forward to is an honest and authentic portrayal of how a family, how a community transitions between these bridges, these spaces, how we bring our children out into the world, how we let them go, and how, they explore love, forever love together.
Mm-hmm. And that's tough too as a parent. Mm-hmm. Like it's tough to see your daughter have a boyfriend. And even your son have a girlfriend because you might not like the person. Right. Especially as a single mom. You're like, what the hell? But
what the hell?
Who you bringing home, man?
Don't scare her.
Scare her, like, what the hell?
What the Halle Berry?
What the Halle Berry? And your son, you just like, well, okay, so he's getting into girls, so what's up with that? As a father, you're like, what's up with that? And it's not like what's up with that for her. For her, it's like, what are you doing? Like, I gotta be.
We're not going to spoil it, Wood.
I'm not spoiling it. Am I spoiling it? My bad.
It's so good. Did you wanted to add in on that? I was looking at your eyes.
Oh,
maybe not. Okay.
I was like, he firing shots.
I know, right?
It's Dawn.
You see what I'm saying? It feels real.
The guru.
So, I told you what one of my takeaways was from this is that it was such a pleasant viewing experience because I realized in that first episode, I no longer had to hold my breath. I got to really enjoy something that I rarely get to see. What is something, and I want to go down the line and ask, that you guys would love as an actor, as a creative who brought this product to life, would you love for this audience to ultimately walk away as their takeaway? And so, we can start with you.
I'm winging it.
Okay.
Love.
Yeah.
I wasn't. Yeah, love. The importance of love. Black love. Black family love. Black familial love. Fresh, hot takes on a Black youthful experience. I feel like this show is so fresh. I've never seen any kids go to the all-white schools like I did growing up. I was like, hey, it's like a first time. Like, just the freshness, the Black love freshness.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
Yeah. To add on to that, I would say, yeah, like that community love, I would say, I hope they take away that you're not alone. You have so many people around you. So there's people to be around you to help uplift you and be there for you and hold space for you. So I hope people can take that away.
Yeah.
I would say self-love, because I think self-love is probably the foundation of it all. I mean, you can't really let love in or, love someone else fully without first loving yourself and without spoiling it,
Yeah.
I think self-love is the best love, so I hope everybody takes that away.
I think maybe, less. What I like about Justin is my son on the show is he's so somewhat unusual. He's not stereotypical at all. So I like that, and I hope that they take away everything that's being said, and also that what is very stereotypically connected to the culture. I hope that some ideological shifts happen, and not just this. Of course, it takes more than a show, but I hope that this show does that and is a part of that. So.
My cast members said it best. So what they said.
Just a quick retweet.
They're so smart.
All of you guys are so smart and so talented. This truly was such a treat for me, and I know that it's going to be a treat for you guys. Please give another round of applause for this incredible cast.
Thank y'all.
Thank you guys so much. And I want to remind everyone that this starts streaming on Netflix May 8th. And prepare to stay in bed.
Binge
all
it
day.
all.
Yeah, just binge it all in one day. You're going to want to.
Popcorn, cup of coffee.
All the good stuff. Thank you guys.
Hey, thank y'all for coming out.
Yeah.